appreciate each and every one of you because I posted that video with zero expectations. I was expecting 3 views, 3 whole views, and all of them were me. So, I'm just very appreciative of not only y'all interacting with the content, but also saying sweet things in the comments. Those things don't go unnoticed at all. And for the future, I'll try to reply to each and every one of you, or at least leave a like or see it, because that stuff was just very kind. But yeah, I cannot say thank you enough because it was very sweet. That video did a lot better than I thought it was going to, and that's part of the reason why I'm back so soon, relatively. I felt like I needed to come in here and film this, and also I've been kind of looking forward to it. I watched some game film, aka I watched the video, listened to some comments, and hopefully this one is even better. But yeah, so we're just gonna get into it. We're just gonna get into it today, because we've got quite a bit of things to go through. So again, bam, my medical toolkit right here. There's quite a bit of things in here. We're gonna go one by one. I'm gonna talk about what I use it for, what's a common application, a couple details, and just ramble about each individual thing. So not only do I hope that this video is relaxing, that it's sufficient enough to not only relax you, but hopefully put you to sleep, because that's the whole point. But not only that, but just be potentially educational, or at least next time you walk into a clinic and you're under the weather, or you have an injury, or things of that nature, you know what these tools are used for. So we'll go from there. Our first thing we have today, and these are in no particular order. I'm gonna try to take this out very carefully, but I might have to reduce the audio volume here. The first thing we have today is for those of you that can see in there, a blood pressure cuff and pump. I'm just gonna rip this out of here and cut it out because there's no shot. This is a blood pressure cuff, and the cuff is actually in my lap right now. But you got 2 main parts. You got your pulse, and you got, I would call a monitor, I forget the technical term. So this bad boy right here is essentially measuring in millimeters of mercury the pressure on your blood vessels. So with a blood pressure cuff, our main goal is to see your systolic and diastolic blood pressure. The systolic is the number above, and the diastolic is the number below. So the average blood pressure, or what is considered the baseline normal, is 120/80. especially in your 20s. And unless you eat salads all day, which, shout out to you if you do, I have no discipline. I ate quesadillas for dinner tonight. Your blood pressure is probably going to be around that similar range. But this bad boy right here, when you puff up the cuff all the way up, you're gonna get to about 150 probably, which is a little high. You don't really need to do all that unless you have a particularly hypertensive patient that you're trying to measure. And you're gonna let it drop, and this is used in conjunction with a stethoscope. Oh my gosh, that we'll talk about later. But you watch this meter drop from 150 down to, let's say, 120/80. You're the picture of health. You're gonna watch this number let air leak out of the cuff at about 2 to 3 millimeters of mercury per second, or mmHg if you'd rather just have the, what's it called, what it stands for, or, gosh, I forget. Anyway, so you'll drop it down to about 120, and you'll see this tick, 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 tick. That's your heartbeat. But you don't measure the first tick. You go based on the first thump you hear in your stethoscope. So I can see a tick at 125, but the actual measurement is a full heartbeat in your ears with the stethoscope at 120. Then we hear that beep, beep, beep. We slowly let air out about 2 to 3 again per second. And at the end of this, at about 80, we'll hear that bump, bump, bump slowly dissipate off in the distance. And that's when you know when your diastolic blood pressure has been measured. The thumping is gone. There is no thump in your ears. That is how a blood pressure cuff works. This guy right here, it's just a safety pin, right? Nothing special. But it's actually very important for some of the tests that need to be done for neurological patients. So let's say, for example, your C6 turbitone, which we can discuss in a different video. It's a funny word, but it's essentially correlating to where on your spine you are processing the information of sensation here. So your C6 is your thumb, right? Let's say we expected some neurological deficiencies in that section of your spine. Well, you would go to your thumb and you'd be like, can you feel this? Sharp or dull? Sharp or dull? Sharp in this case, dull in this case. We're testing whether you can feel that sensory difference, that the scale we go based off of is out of 5. So you would demonstrate on the non-involved side. You'd be like, can you feel this? And then you would go to the involved side. Let's say that's your left thumb or your left C6 dermatome. You would test 5 times with their eyes closed. And if they answer correctly 5 out of 5 times, that's considered efficient. Seems normal. Then if they answer anywhere from 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 times correctly, and we're not suspect of like an issue with the test, that's considered diminished. And then anything from 2 to 1 to 0 is considered absent, because you can guess, you know what I mean, for 2. So that's how sharp dull works. That's how that test goes, typically for neurological patients. But sometimes, it's just a general screening. Next thing we've got, just picking things at random now, is a tape measure. There was a cut there because this thing is way too damn loud, so I'm not going to take the actual measuring part out of this. But it's like a little drum. Now you may be thinking, a tape measure, why? I sometimes wonder too. But with a tape measure like this one, my favorite measurement to do is testing if your pectoralis minor, which is the muscle under your big chest muscle, and pectoralis major, if pec minor is tight, because in a lot of people that have pec minor tightness, they have rounded forward posture like this. Some say I have that. Can neither confirm nor deny. But essentially you would take your tape measure from the top of your acromion, your posterolateral side of your acromion, which is, for those of you that don't know what that is, that's the top of your shoulder here, that little bony prominence. You would have the patient in supine, which is on their back, head flat on the table, body flat on can switch on by spinning this. Bell activated. Bell deactivated. The bell is mainly used for heart murmurs, different kinds of issues with the heart, whether there's an SA node issue or things of that nature. There's just a thump that doesn't sound right. Cardiovascular doctors use this end. I wouldn't say often, but sometimes to listen for those kinds of things. It can also be used for bowel movements, in case you need to know that as well. But that's why there's two ends of this thing. It's not just because it's cool looking. You got your normal end and the diaphragm. And then you got your more fine-tuned end in the bell. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a stethoscope. Stay. Last thing, well, two things actually. We'll see how loud this thing is. I guess it's loud as hell. Not bad actually. This guy right here. What do you think this is? You got your guesses in?